How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm blessed, man. Rockin' madness. Just came all the way from work and stuff. I'm cool though.
Yes,
Real
sir.
cool,
Yes,
man. It's
sir.
such an honor to have you on, man. Seriously. Man. So
Tweet.
I'm gonna what's that,
I
brother?
just sent out a tweet to let everybody know we live and everything.
Yeah, we're real live, man. Shoot. Well, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind introducing you, like before, just to kick this off. Shoot, just by you being on here, it's already kicked off.
I appreciate it.
Create. Man, there's a long intro. Please forgive me if I left anything out. Um, you guys, you guys don't realize the phenomenal cat that's right in front of you right now, man. He's been doing a lot of great work and seriously, like stuff that's gonna last for a long time, man. That's gonna be like grains. This needed to happen today, but we're gonna get into all that and why I'm saying that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna introduce Dwann Brown or Dwann B. I don't know which one you like to be
I
called more.
don't care. Yeah.
And please correct me if I get anything wrong, man. Um, Dwann B, musician, historian, comedian, educator, producer, and radio personality, who's been featured on Fox Soul and on the comedian Aida Rodriguez's Truth Serum, and in the movie by the great King Flex Tariq Nasheed, Microphone Check. That's a great movie if you guys have not seen it yet, and you're man, we're gonna talk about that too.
Mhm.
He's the host of a podcast or broadcast called Hotepish. I want to ask about that name. That's pretty funny. It also has a music page called Incense and Ashtrays. Sorry, man.
Mhm.
He's worked with members of Parliament Funkadelic, members of Jill Scott's band. Oh man, Earth, Wind and Fire, and also Trina Arnold, who you guys know as Pam on Martin. He's also been a featured musician on the Swag Sample page. Check out his soul beats and purchase them, man. If you want samples, y'all, like, and if you're doing all that, this brother's the one to purchase it from. He's a drummer, amazing drummer, by the way. We're going to talk about all that stuff. Um, he's the producer of on a documentary, and it's the reason, one of the main reasons I got him on here because I think he's definitely important to what we are doing here at Black History of Rock and Roll. The name of the documentary is called "It's Bigger Than Hip Hop: Black American Music Family Tree," and he's the producer of this documentary. He also has a bunch of lessons that go along with what he's talking about. He's a historian, and he really has a lot of cool stuff that you guys need to check out. You know, and with the first question I'm going to ask you, first of all, what is it? This is probably not a music question, but I really want to start with this question. What, how would you define Black culture or Black American, foundational Black American, original Black American, descendant of freedmen culture?
That's it's I don't know if you can define it in one like this. That would take an encyclopedia to define. Because we have a very complex culture that is an amalgamation of all of the black people that were here before Columbus, after Columbus, people who were, Indian at one point in time here, they were Creole at one point, Melungeons at one point, all got together and, by the time the 1920s, 30s, 40s came around, we were all basically identified as Negro when 100 years prior we had different classifications. And it's a culture that is a response to this environment. A lot of us were enslaved and a lot of us weren't enslaved. Of course, the numbers always say more were enslaved and I roll with it, but there was always a large contingency in the North and the South that wasn't enslaved. But whether you were enslaved or not, during the time of Jim Crow, you got the same damn treatment. You know, both the people who were, because I have family on both sides, enslaved and not enslaved. By the time you got to 1880, everybody is getting it. By the time Reconstruction ends. So in response to that, we had an ethnogenesis, and we now have this thing we call Black American culture. That was, in my opinion, musically, it was expressed at its highest in the 1970s and 60s. That's when it was the last time we had our musical expression of our culture expressed, without interruption. The last time we've had like the TV movie expression of our culture expressed at its highest was the 90s, movies like Boomerang and stuff like that. But we got to make sure that we know that music and comedy and TV, that's just an expression of culture. It's not the culture itself. The culture itself is, you know, a culture of resiliency, a resilient group of people that finds a way to get around and make it happen, regardless of what the circumstances are. And when there's no other options, create something new. That's for the culture. It's a sharing culture. It's a loving culture, and it's a culture of people who, you know, got put in the pickle in the situation, and the segment of that culture expresses itself through gangs and that kind of stuff. But we always got to make sure that that's just a segment of the culture. The majority of the culture is law-abiding communal people who just want to go around and make it to the next day and not have nobody stand in our way. Be make it upon merit and qualifications and not be denied because of our color. And when denied because of our color, we say something. We have a culture of standing up to it and not accepting it, and that tends to piss other people off. So those are all elements of our culture that then go out and express themselves musically and through our entertainment. But we got to be very clear that our entertainment isn't the culture; it's the expression of the culture.
That's right. I think a lot of people kind of trope. It's funny how like our entertainment is known worldwide, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, those tropes that people, certain, you know, those that are anti us have tried to put onto us as if that is the culture. And then they try to mix what we've been known to do, even though they've demonized that. It almost seems as if like they try to make us a monolith in like one aspect of and usually negative type culture when we know ourselves. Do you feel like, I mean, I think I know the answer to this. Do you feel like a lot of that is so much exaggerated, not only by the dominant society, or I don't even like calling them dominant, the white supremacist media society, but also do you feel like some of it, I don't like blaming us for it, but I feel like anything that we do is scrutinized more than anybody else, and then it's taken and troped. If it's on the negative, and if it's on the positive, it's buried. Let me know if you think I'm incorrect or correct by saying
No,
such.
you're completely correct, and it's not nothing that we should be ashamed to. We should never be ashamed to point that out, because at the end of the day, the reason why I don't, but at the same time, point it out, but really don't care at the same time, because we got to understand this. I like to point it out, and when I point it out, I mention, yes, black people allow other people to not see their own faults and their own problems. People get to feel good about themselves for a little bit, so they can come over here and crap on us. Every group has issues. Every group has an underbelly. Every group has an underworld. Every group has dregs of their society. But what black people do is we allow other people to ignore the dregs of their society and dump on us. That's what we are. We're the doormat that people like to step on, and we that way because we tend to lay down. That's a negative, a downside of our culture. We tend to allow it. We ultimately don't care. We for the most part be focused in on ourselves, trying to outdo the next nigga. That's how we are most oftentimes. We ain't even, and then we believe the low aspect because that propaganda's put out about us. We believe it. How can you not believe it? We raised on Disney too. Disney teaches us this stuff. TV commercials teach us that. When it's the TV shows and the black kids are always the ones slowing things down. When you see stuff like I was watching the new Bad Boys movie, it's always this one stupid scene. You can see it in almost every movie the last 15 years where they make a mockery of racism. It was a scene in Bad Boys, the new Bad Boys movie, where they taking the car and Martin is complaining about racism. Like the way there's all these elements in the movie, like we're not racist because we still in the car. like the movies have a trivial breakdown of what racism is. So most black people are just as confused as white folks and everybody else as to what racism is, and we lay down and allow it to happen. So I think I lost my I lost your question in me saying that, but that's what I was gonna. I forgot exactly. I don't know if I answered your question or not. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did. You answered it. It's really cool. I just feel like we get scrutinized a lot more, and yeah, we do scrutinize ourselves when it comes to comparing our own community to everyone else's. But I'm glad that I've been seeing some things that, and I've seen it before, even like with like my grandma would always tell me, put your head up. Even like if I'm walking with my head down, it's like nope, because I mean, my grandma's from like Alabama, and my other grandma was from Georgia. But this particular grandma that I'm talking about, she's like, put your head up. Don't you ever look down when you're talking to people. She's from that
Mm-hmm.
school. So there's always that pride that we've had. But then we're people don't realize that we're really hard on ourselves more than people even give us. That's when anyone says that, oh, they want to try to like. I've gotten into it with some white supremacist trolls and even cats from that are not from the culture. I'm like, they're all, why don't you get your community together? And first of all, I don't let them do that. I'm like, first of all, you don't know what I do. You don't know how me or anybody that I know works in our community. Second of all, you have nothing to say to me because you need to focus on your own. So I understand what you mean by that, but we do, I think, criticize each other more
Yeah,
than anyone.
and we care too much about what other groups think. Man, from my point of view is fuck them. They got,
Yep,
if they want to spend their time focusing in on us and not their problems, then that's the longer they're gonna be behind. They're the ones that are cool with being behind this white supremacist eight ball. We're not us. We're the only ones not cool with it.
no,
And I include poor white people because poor white people should have more, but they believe in whiteness more than they believe in rightness. So that's their choice. If you choose to believe in whiteness more, and that's just gonna be you just gonna keep getting screwed over by these people. You know what I mean? If you choose to be a white supremacist, Latino or Asian, and
yep,
you choose to, like, you're spending your free time like Elon Musk and Trump opened that H-1B visa program to take white jobs, not fruit picking jobs. They're taking white jobs with that H-1B visa
yep,
program. But you would choose to allow them to. But you over here talking to me, okay?
exactly.
All right,
I
nigga.
guess we got to say this. LBJ, I guess, was right then, right?
Yeah. Like we have to truly not care about what they think. Like, I mean, truly, it doesn't. It's what a white person or what a non-black person thinks about black people to me is equivalent to shit on a stick. Whatever.
Yeah. I think it's up to us to just like I never let anyone say, "Oh, we got to do better." No, we don't. I never let anyone say that we have no culture. Yes, we do. And this is why I do this, even though it's on a rock and roll thing. It's a part, like it's still to me a part of something that speaks. Yeah, I like what you said. It's not just all about music per se. It's just an extension of, like you said something earlier, it's basically kind of like our voice in that sense, but it doesn't define all of us, so in a sense I'm kind of using this platform to say the same thing. And I'll be honest, yeah, I focus on black people worldwide, but I'm definitely like specific when it comes to our culture, and like kind of having the same vibe that a lot of our ancestors did when it came to like just
Hmm.
looking at how we roll.
Yeah, yeah. Like, we can't truly, like, we had to understand, like, that's why it's dope. You have rock and roll.
Yep,
Because we got to see these genres as different expressions of our culture. Pop is a particular expression of our culture. That's when we trying to, appeal to white people, but it's still our music and our cultural expression. Rock and roll is our cultural expression. R&B, heavy metal, hip
yep,
hop, house. It's all just different expressions. And the same people who listen to hip hop listen to house.
yep,
They'll say, I listen to hip hop, but I also listen to jazz. That's our cultural expression, blues. And it's different appetites, it's different seasons. Sometimes, you have hot, you have cold. Just like in the weather, you have winter, you have the summer, you have hot, cold, night, day. Music is the same way.
Yep.
You know, if it's a sunny day, I'm probably gonna be listening to something with a higher vibration, like some Frankie Beverly or Earth and Fire. If it's a rainy, kind of drowsy day, I'm probably gonna be listening to Roy Ayers or
Mm.
or the Blackbirds, and I'll listen to them all at any time. But if it's raining outside, that puts you in the mood for certain sounds. That puts me in the mood for Herbie Hancock or a certain artist. Versus, if it's real hot outside, I might be listening to something different. Just and it's all cultural expression. It's all
Most
expression.
definitely. There's some questions that came up in the live. Um, Jock Chemistry says, "What's the topic of your conversation?" Well, you're looking at him, Dwann B, aka
Mhm.
Dwann Brown. He's the topic, and we're gonna get into more stuff on his works. Yoshimitsu says, "Hi, Dwann. I speak a little bit of Japanese. That's how I was able to read
Mhm.
that." And Yoshimitsu says, "I'm a supporter." Who else? Shouts to Frank Biong, man. He's a fan of yours. I don't know if you've ever talked to him. You should talk to that brother, man. He's real cool. Um, and I interviewed him too.
Dope.
Positive images of black people don't line white pockets. Interesting point.
That's a great point.
Wow.
Hmm.
So, with that, I have to ask you this: what was your first and earliest memory of getting into music, and how did you get into music, and how did you get into? I know you play drums. How did you get into all of that? Like, just what was your introduction to music? Sorry about that.
Just when my mom would make me go to church when I was a kid, the only thing I liked was watching the drummer.
Mm,
I just had a natural, just my eye would always go to whatever the drummer was doing. So it was just a natural to me to, I always heard rhythm.
mm.
And so, my mom, that was kind of the trade-off. I hate going to church, but at least I get to watch the drummer. I'm talking about when I was 3 years old. This is when I was 3 and 4 years old. That's some of my earliest memories. Like, even when I was even so when I was we was going to church, it was just the drums all anytime I would watch a concert or a TV show, I didn't care if it was Michael Jackson on TV. My eyes was always focused on the drummer. You
Wow.
and so that's where my eyes always went to on stage. And so that's probably where it started. I always wanted to play. I can't think of time. There was never a time that I didn't want to play the drums. But my dad was like, "Man, I ain't buying no goddamn drum set." My dad, it cost so much damn money. So, I didn't get one until I was like 14. You know,
Wow.
and so when I was 14, then my parents got me a drum set. Then from there, I had to do all the maintenance, get all the cymbal upgrade. I beat them so much. I need new heads within the first 3 months, new
Man,
cymbals in the first 6 months. So I would cut grass. I would cut grass, wash cars, do whatever I could do to save money to buy new cymbals and parts all throughout high school. When I was in high school, everybody else was buying Jordans and listening to rap. I was buying cymbals and listening to Earth and Fire. And I listen to rap too, Outkast. I had my good healthy amount of rap that I listened to, but I was more so focused on the Four Tops and the Temptations and Confunction and Count Basie and Max Roach, and that's where my head was in high school musically. And I would just listen when I would hear. Then when I would hear Bad Boy come out, Bad Boy Records, that whole era, and I could name the songs right then when they first dropped. I wasn't. I was 15. You know, all my friends in school dancing to this shit. I'm like, bad. This is Diana Ross. What are we doing here? And
yeah,
I'm like, I just never appreciated stuff getting redone. I've always appreciated originators, people who can create music that didn't exist and now it exists. That always meant more to me than somebody who's just taking something that worked already and rapping over it. So for me, that's how it started. It was always there. I can't think of a time that it wasn't there. And to this day, I stopped playing the drums like seriously 2012, 13. I play now. About once a year I'll get a call and I'll just because you can never not play. But Now I'm just more so into talking and really breaking and documenting and getting the history of the music more so than playing it. I'll sit behind the booth and produce some songs every now and again. I've certain times I'll sit back and produce if an artist already has something going on. I'll come in and refine it. Help with the production side of it. Now, but right now I'm just focused on just getting telling the story right because I told you all that about me learning to teach myself how to play the drums and knowing the music. This stuff that I talk now, I thought everybody knew this stuff. I really did. I thought this all was normal. I didn't think it was anything special till probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Like when I saw Fat Joe and Busta Rhymes saying that shit, and I would say things, and I saw people being like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I was like, "Y'all didn't know that?" And so that's when I didn't start realizing people didn't know this shit until really the pandemic. Before that, I thought when I say well, I thought this shit was normal.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I'm a kid. We're probably around the same age. I'm 50 years old. I'm a kid that grew up. I'm born in the 70s, and I remember as young as 3 or 4 years old about my music experience. But I grew up in the 80s, pop locking and break dancing. I also started playing music, a few years after I stopped break dance. I still actually dance, actually, though, too. I got back
Mm.
into it. But the thing is, we all knew earlier on that hip hop was a foundational Black American like
Yeah.
innovation. I don't understand how like that's just weird that he would say something like that. Both of those guys. I mean, the whole dialect and even the term, let alone like just. I mean, man, there's a lot of things that Amde. You probably know Amde from Watts Prophets.
Mhm.
Everybody knows Amde. Dude, he even like broke it down. Now, Amde, I said this to another person that I was interviewing. Amde doesn't necessarily call what he did hip hop, but definitely would say, hey, like the rap element was there earlier on, and his group Watts Prophets were the first to actually put that and call themselves a rap group on the album, Rap in Black. But it's interesting to see even things and all the elements that came before. That's why I'm glad Tariq did Microphone Check. These are things that I never questioned at all.
Yeah.
But it was so cool to have the deeper history because it's a part of our culture.
Yeah.
But then when people are saying that we have nothing to do with it, or they want to try to minimize like our foundation in that, I don't understand that. And the same thing with rock and roll, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm
And it's the how it's like I was reading something. I'm doing a show on this later on this week about the hip hop museum talking about hip hop was born out of elements of Jamaica, Africa, Latin America. That's the biggest lie like that. I
why?
almost couldn't sleep that night when I first read that shit. Like I'm like, name the element. Just name one. You can't name one element. And
Nope. They
so and I thought for me, I do what I do. I kind of like my mind works on logic. If the music behind hip hop is mostly sample, my first question is okay, what kind of music are they sampling? You're gonna go right back to the rhythm and blues.
Yep.
Would that be R&B as expressed through funk or R&B as expressed through disco? Disco and
Yep.
funk are just different expressions of rhythm and blues, and they're done by literally the same musicians in the studio playing both sounds. Or even if they say, okay, well, that's a white artist. Well, it's a white artist
Doesn't
playing
matter.
rhythm and blues. Okay, it's the
Yep.
Doobie Brothers. That's white R&B. Are you sampling Cher? That's white R&B. It's all
Yep.
R&B. All of it's R&B. Don't let these people pop. All that stuff is rhythm and blues. That's what it is. And so that's what that's so if the soundtrack of the music is all sample based, then in this based in this one particular genre, with rhythm and blues as a child of the blues and jazz, what are rhythm and blues parents? And then that takes you back to the blues, jazz, and gospel.
Yep.
You know, that's the holy trinity right there. Blues. Well, I put gospel and blues in the same category.
Yep. I agree with
Um,
that.
yeah, they're in the
Yep.
same category. Thomas Dorsey, the father of gospel, was a blues artist first. So
Mm.
and so they and the W.C. Handy and all these people in Ma Rainey, they all play. You know, it was all the same circuit. But when you see this, it's like, and then you ask yourself, okay, what is hip hop without the music? It's just aggressive poetry. That's all the fuck it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And nobody cares about poetry. Nobody can quote you a Tupac poem. People care about the
Mm.
music. So they care about the music part of it. If the music is the hook that gets you to listen, then it's a culture of the music that's being rapped over. The rap is something that no one on earth would be listening to if you didn't have them R&B melodies behind you. Period.
Here's another thing that I always say, especially to my students too. I'm a music teacher as well. And
Mhm.
anyone that has this conversation, I always get, I always laugh when people say, like Scotty Ian of Anthrax, who, I'm an Anthrax fan. I'm into heavy metal. I'm into punk and all that stuff. But the thing is, one thing I cannot stand, I can't stand when they say, well, because they try now the new thing is to try to leave Black Sabbath out because they're just too blues. And those guys, Sabbath will tell you where they got a lot of their influence from as well, blues and jazz. But the thing is, they'll say Judas Priest because they'll say, well, that's when the blues left. The blues never left. And funny thing is, there's an interview with Rob Halford from Judas Priest, and he says one of our what's in heavy metal that will never leave is that I don't like the word he used. He uses the word primitive and wild, but I got what he was saying. Howlin' Wolf. He's all, you could never get rid of that because it's a part of our genre no matter what, because that's where it began. It began with the blues. And people always think of 12 bars, but it's more than that. That R&B drum beat is there in heavy metal, no matter how much you put double bass in it or whatever. That church gospel beat, I mean, you could hear that in heavy metal and punk. Same thing with the with they just think it's a 12 bar. No, our thing is not just a 12 bar. There's a whole freedom to it that goes along with it. That's a part of rock and roll in any extreme form that you could think of. You cannot get rid of it. So it even goes back to R&B then as
Even
well. And
blues,
I tell
12 bars was just one aspect of blues. Kansas City
exactly.
blues wasn't 12 bar. A lot of your Delta blues wasn't 12 bar.
Nope.
It's Memphis blues. The blues comes down to you using the bass drums and keys and guitar, and it's the song structure is what makes it the blues. You know, it's those 12 bars. The 12 bar is just one aspect of the blues,
Yeah.
and it's
There's a
not.
whole
It doesn't
spirit.
encompass all the blues.
It's funny, yeah. I tell them, I'm like, it ain't just 12 bars. And it's like, cats don't get that. But it was so cool to hear the guy that Scott Ian referenced as the death of, you know, the birth of heavy metal is without blues. And Judas Priest, Rob Halford's the lead singer of Judas Priest, but he's telling you it's still there.
Hmm.
You cannot get rid of it, and yeah, I mean, you got cats like Kirk Hammett giving like people like Jimi Hendrix props, even though Jimmy was still a rock musician. But we all know Jimmy learned from the best. He learned from a lot of blues and everything like that. I never separate rock and roll from the blues. I never separate it from our culture, no matter who plays it. It's like me playing, if I were to play polka, it's still a German thing or whatever. It doesn't just because I play it doesn't mean it's not a German thing. You know what I'm saying? That's why I can't
Hmm.
stand when people say, "Well, there's a bunch of white guys playing R&B." Well, it's still the same R&B music.
Hmm.
That doesn't make like what you're saying.
It's all the same. Like, you can't separate. It's like you can't separate R&B from jazz, or the
Nope.
blues. You can, but really when it comes R&B encompasses more of an arrangement, than you more than a lot of your rock and roll, your rock. That's where it's more blues. That's where it sticks close to the blues because it doesn't have the grand orchestration. It's more disciplined with with chopping it up and shredding it up. Um, whereas a rhythm and blues has that grand orchestration that comes out of that swing element, that comes out of the jazz. And even when you fast forward to this stripped down shit that we hear now with Chris Brown and Future and that whole stripped down new sound of, post 90s, really the 90s on, when it just got all the way plastic, it's still the same stuff that was in orchestrated blues. It's just You just took away elements. You still have those elements. That, instead of having the string arrangement play that part, you have the keys play that part. And in regards, people like Future and that whole sound, that Chris Brown very stripped down sound, you got the high, you still have a melody playing underneath all of the music, even though it's those tick 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 boom beats. There's always Drake. There's always a melody playing behind it. It's a simple melody versus if that same melody was done in the '60s, it'll be played by a string arrangement and horns.
Mm.
You know, except for now you just have a key play like a floating airy sound underneath, but that's still the element that would have been there. It's just that the music industry decided to found it a lot cheaper and a lot, and also less mentally stimulating, which is something that they're all for. They don't want to stimulate your mind. You know, just put these little sounds in there and replace these little sounds with instruments that used to stimulate your mind because we don't want that anymore.
Yeah, that's sad. With that, it's not to really I don't mean to seem like I'm zigzagging. It's kind of man, there's a lot of stuff, but I'll try to be brief. With that, I have to ask you, who were your influences musically? And I'm not trying to get off the subject, but because I'm gonna come back to that after you answer this.
Uh, shit. God, there's so many. I, let's go with the top ones. Off the top of my head, Maurice White, you know, uh, Earth and the Fire, George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, Smokey Robinson, um, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Count Basie, one of my biggest, Duke, Lewis Jordan. These are people James Brown, and I know I'm forgetting a lot. I'm not forgetting more, than I'm remembering. A lot of ways. Shit, D'Angelo,
Yeah,
Jill Scott, Raphael Sadiq, Erica Badu, Roy Hargrove, um, Gary Clark Jr. I love these cats. J Mo, Anderson Paak. These cats really inspire me. But as far as like, if I was gonna do a Mount Rushmore producers, if I do my top five producers, I hate doing top fives. Um, James Anthony Carmichael, Maurice White, Quincy Jones, George Clinton, um, and shit. Damn, do I go Norman Whitfield or do I go Hal Davis? Or it's so many. It's just Leon Ware. I mean, when you listen to it, everyone has their own thing. Dr. Dre, you know, everybody got their own thing, and when you learn to tap into people's thing, you find a whole different world of music. I like to appreciate people for their thing.
I you mentioned somebody, and I don't know if I should ask you this, but I'm going to.
Mm.
You're related to J. Anthony Carmichael,
Yeah,
aren't you?
that's my wife's father.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that guy produced some of the. Oh man, for those that don't know who Mr. Carmichael is, he produced a lot of people, especially. I'll let you say it. I was
Oh,
gonna say something.
like Michael Jackson, the Jackson Five, Marvin Gaye, Barry White, Eddie Kendricks, Lionel Richie, the Commodores, Atlantic Star. It's
A lot.
a lot,
He's a legend.
a
Did you
lot.
ever work with him?
I,
Have you ever collabed with him?
no, he for the most part walked away from music in the '90s
Mm.
on top. Like, he had everybody wanted him at one point. The New Kids on the Block when they were hot, NSYNC when they was hot, Destiny's Child, they all reached out to him. But when he was done, he was done. He's whatever. Um, but we know as far as talking music, oh shit, you talk about how many tens of thousands of hours we've talked music and talked about music and we've he has given me some trade secrets to when I do get back in the studio and do some stuff. He gave me some trade secrets that he's never told nobody else that I vow to secrecy, but I will be using within my music.
Man, that's awesome. There's a few cats that has some things to say. Sorry, guys. Um, sorry to both of you guys. To you also, to Dwann. Oh man, this this chat thing is on one.
Oh,
Okay,
I can't see
let me
nothing
make
in
sure.
the chat.
What's up, Tex Mosley? Tex is a part, man. Tex is a legend himself. Total punk rock legend, man. And I featured him on one of my streams too. And he's in a band called Neverland Ranch Davidians. That's really good. Shout Frank.
I like the name of that band. I like
Hey,
that
they
name.
chill, bro. Those guys are
I
awesome.
gotta look them
Yeah,
up, man. Send me that information. I just
I
want to hear
will,
them
man.
because that name.
Yeah, that name is a good play on
Yeah, I
title.
want to hear
But yeah,
that name. Made me want to hear them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Send me that shit.
yeah, man, and they get down too, man. They get down. Frank Beyond says shouts to both you, Mr. Greenhill and Mr. Brown. Such a treat to hear this conversation. Well, man, Frank, you rock, man, and he's an amazing musician too.
Yeah.
Yo, Mitsu says everybody got their own time when they figure this out. I learned as well. He's probably. I think he's probably talking about like the whole hip hop thing. Jack Chemistry says, Yoshi, I mean the topic of the subject. Well, I'm saying the same answer. It's Dwann B. Sorry for a tidbit. Nah, don't be sorry. It's all good. Tex Moses, what's up, brother Tex? Man. Yomish Stu says you should be the one to say something about this ish. That's right. Yeah, man. He knows because he's a historian, man. Um, so with that, when you mentioned all those artists, now I'm saying this, and I think I know the answer. You still see the tradition of blues when you mention all the artists that you did, right? With our tradition and just like what we, just the root of all the music that we've represented, you still see that, like without
Oh,
all
it's
the
yeah,
artists.
it's there. It's just like it's like you may you may not see the roux in the gumbo, but you can taste it.
Yeah, I
It's
like that,
there. It's and it's unmistakable. You know. And
man.
oftentimes the here look, let's just break it down. The reason why a lot of people don't see it is because they don't know it. They wouldn't it's right there in front of them. They don't recognize it because they've never spent time listening to it.
Mm,
They may have heard a couple songs that hit the charts here and there that their grandmama played, but how much time have they spent listening to T-Bone Walker play that guitar? Because if you want to understand Chuck Berry, you got to understand T-Bone Walker, who was before him. And it keeps going back. See, a lot of times people like to stop it in the
mm,
60s. The people that
mm.
the artists of the 50s and the 60s, the artists that they looked up to was making music in the early 50s and the 40s and the
Yep.
30s. So as far as recorded music, we can the soundtrack really gets robust in the 1920s and 30s. You know? So when you're talking about when you're talking about that class of Muddy and Little Walter. You listen to their interviews and you listen to their documentaries, they tell you who they listen to. And most of the people they listen to got recorded music too. We're in the greatest time ever in music. We got Spotify and Apple. We can just go ding, ding, ding and pull a song up. We used to have to go and look for a record if this was, in a lot of ways, I miss records because of the sound, but hell no, I don't miss having to go to Amoeba Music and dig through crates to find the song. I don't miss that. I like being able
Man.
to hear like, oh shit. And if it ain't on Spotify or Apple Music, it's definitely on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like we're in a time to where that's why I teach so confidently how I talk, what I do, because all I did was just my whole life teaching myself music. I just was a documentary fiend. And I just listened. Whether I listened, whether I watched, and I don't care who it is, I listen to white artists, whatever artists. That's how I was able to build my tree.
More about
I
you.
knew listening to the artists who they got it from. When I listened to the Bee Gees, they said in their own damn documentary they were trying to sound like the Stylistics. It's not
Mm.
math science. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Nope.
When I listened to the Beatles, they said they were trying to sound like Chess Records in Motown. when I listen to Elton John, I mean, it goes. When I listen to Van Halen, who was Van Halen listening to? He was listening to Chuck Berry.
Yep.
Then when I go listen to Chuck Berry, who was he listening to? Wasn't no white people. He was listening to T-Bone Walker. He was listening. It's like,
Rosetta Tharpe.
yeah, Sister Rosetta Tharpe. It's like the backer you go, the blacker you get, and
Yep.
that shouldn't offend people, because if you're truly about information, you just want to know the truth. If somebody gets offended that I go back and tell the truth about something, that's that person's problem. They can kiss my entire ass, because it doesn't matter how you feel about the truth. Eh, It just, I'm not lying to nobody. And
No.
and when you listen to the artists, Ozzy Osbourne, they go down the list. Just and he said plenty of questionable racist things, but he still tell you John Chuck Berry's was his all time everything. I mean, information isn't racist. Information is information.
Yep.
If you take information as racist, then you the racist. And
True.
I'm tired of black people having to step on eggshells to make racist people feel comfortable. We shouldn't have to stick on eggshells. And the artists who gave you guys, whether you Latino, white, Jamaican, the artists who gave you your sound, they were, I don't know what their political views were. I don't know if they were racist behind closed doors, but when they got on camera, they told the truth. Your original ska and reggae artists, they told you they were trying to sound like Chuck Berry and
Yep.
Motown.
Or aren't just
The
R
artists
and B.
always tell
Yep.
you the truth. Just listen to the artists. Don't listen to the
Yep.
pundits. Listen to the artists. The artists tell you.
And it's a trip that you mentioned that even the movements that, like, say for example, people don't know that the mod and the original skinhead movement was influenced by like a lot of Black Americans and Caribbeans too, but like a lot of the Caribbean stuff was a takeoff of Black American music. But even in style, a lot of people don't know this about the whole skinhead thing, which was a mod thing before, but they were just poor mods. They're just close cropping their hair, and they listen to reggae, and they liked a lot of R&B and B and soul. As a matter of fact, and I know you're familiar with Northern Soul because of your, as well as like what your father-in-law contributed to. That whole scene was a post-skinhead dance scene, and it's a trip because that before that whole National Front BS happened, a lot of those guys were heavily influenced by like a lot of Black culture, you know. And again, it comes back to our blues based, you know, like our rhythm and blues sound, which influenced Jamaica. You know, they mix it with their mento, which is kind of like their folk music, and then basically like that's what became ska and rock steady and all that. But a lot of them were into soul too, and that soul element is heavy. That's why, like, you could find a lot of cats that love a lot of soul, even in the UK till this day. Look, I mean, you
Because
know,
it
I mean,
speaks to your soul. It's natural music. It's the music of the people natural to this environment that we're in. And everybody has a blues. White people got blues. Jamaicans got the blues. Latino. Everybody got problems, and the blues speak to that. Relationship problems. Muddy waters. The gypsy woman told me your mama's bad luck child. Everybody got problems in relationships and problems in society, and nobody writes to those problems in society better than black artists.
create.
We're still, even though you may be a racist thug that hates us, we still write music that speaks to your existence. you know
Yep.
so you're going to, and no one, you listen to, like, sometimes me and my wife, I listen to K jazz, and they have these white blues artists on, like white blues. Their blues is, at a tough day at work. God damn it, you actually got a job. So what the fuck you have blues for? Our blues is goddamn, I can't find work. I mean, your blues is I lost a promotion at work. It's a different thing.
Way different. And with that, let's bring up your documentary because your tree is tied to the documentary. The tree
Mm-hmm.
that you guys saw, and shouts to Jaw Chemistry. Happy Black History Month, family. I love y'all. We love you too, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that tree, and I'm gonna get one of those shirts. You guys look at that tree. I posted it. and Dwann B is selling hoodies and shirts too as well. You
Hmm.
know, like we're gonna plug all that. And so, what made you make the tree? And also, I think you kind of touched what made you make the movie, but let's expound on that and tell us just everybody what the documentary is about. Plus, you have lessons to go along with the movie, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I'll say that before I get out of here. I have to get out here in a few minutes. But I, the Black American Music Film Tree. You can go to my first on my YouTube channel at Dwann B DWANNB, and also my secondary channel that I've just started, but I haven't started putting content on yet. My documentaries on that: Incense and Ashtrays. Incense, the letter N, ashtrays. Like when I incense like these right here. When
Yeah,
you say incense,
I
the shit
burn them
that you
too.
burn.
So,
Yeah, yeah, these incense and
yeah.
ashtrays. That's the name of the channel. That's where you can find my documentaries bigger than hip hop. What got me to do the tree was I was like, again, with all that Fat Joe and Busta Rhymes, Black Americans have no culture shit, the way that shit spread, I wanted to write a book on it, but I was like, I ain't got the time to write no book. And at the end of the day, 90% of people who buy the book ain't gonna read past the second chapter. So how can I really? And plus, there's been plenty of books written out there. I mean, I'm not the news. Black music history is extensively written on. I'm a messenger that knows how to put things together, but we stand on a mountain of information. Like there are mountains of books on our history. I mean, literally, you can read until you can't read no more. And so I was like, okay, how can we teach this history right away? We're in a microwave generation. Then I'll tell you the truth, I was on a mushroom trip. And when I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now, I probably took it like goddamn like 6 grams of mushrooms, and I was smoking weed. I probably on about 15 blunt. And then I had a vision that popped in my head, and it was this tree. I said,
Mm.
I could do a music tree. And I had all kinds of downloads and wrote some notes, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I probably worked about 14 hours that day to put the tree together, mostly off memory. Because I have a very good memory. I've been just memorizing. I also went to college and took a lot of music classes in college. So I have academic behind me, and that being a college graduate, I know how to make my information up to academic standards. And so I put the tree together like in one day, and then I spent about another six months refining it, just making sure that going back and reading my books, watching old documentaries, and I probably bought about 20 books during that time and read them all. I'm also a speed reader, so I
Wow.
can read real fast, and I started reading, and then that way I could, if I was ever asked, I could reference where I got it from, because the one thing I hate doing is being wrong, so it was like, okay, let me, before I just put this out there, and then I teamed up with my man Joe Fox, and he designed the tree itself. He made the design to it, and I just plugged in all my information on it, and
Yeah.
so it's like a way that we can tell the whole story in one image versus having to flip through 200 pages, because you can't write a book long enough that's going to encapsulate all of our genres. It's like each genre needs its own book.
Yep.
That would be 1,000 books I'd have to write, or I could just put it on this one image.
It's very simple and it's very precise, and that's what I love about it. I'm like, man, when I saw it, I'm like, that's why I was like, man, let me post that. Like, I'm calling. Every time I see Major, because I'm a part of the reparations movement too. Major, tell Dwann, like, let me use that image. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
Major's a good
um,
dude. Yeah.
he is very good dude, man. Well, hey, you guys all are cool, man. And the first time I met you was at a reparations
Uh-huh.
thing, but I think I met you before for some reason. I don't know why. I think I seen you somewhere else,
Probably around.
man. But so with that, you have a whole movie that you're doing, or you're working on, or is it already
It's
done?
I'm working on it. It's like mostly done. I'm just it's I'm doing the gospel roots of America of American music. and I'm showing how like all along in the street, whether it's heavy metal, pop, rock, soul, jazz, most musicians learned in church.
Yep,
No matter how you feel about
I'm one of them.
church. Yeah, no matter
I'm
how you feel
I'm
about church.
actually
Huh?
I'm a total Orthodox Christian, believe it or not. But
Okay.
yeah,
That's what's
you
up.
know,
And you know me, I grew up in church. I played drum in church for 20 years, you know. And that's what we all learn.
yeah,
You people don't understand that. You know, they'll see an artist up there be the biggest artist on the planet, or they'll see the band back there, all these guys that are high, that are all hella cool and getting high. All them dudes played in church,
yep,
mostly. That's where you learn. Church is
that's
where you learn how to become a
yep,
musician. Your rappers, your producers, your sound engineers, the first time your first time was on the soundboard in the audio ministry at church. You know, that's church is really the proving ground. That's where you understand what this thing is. And then you go off into your music. And then even once you get there, you touring with whatever act. I noticed this in my years playing with church. What do musicians do when they get off tour? They go right back to playing in church to keep their chops fresh, and to until the next tour, they right back in church. I remember that's how I got that's how I was able to finally get on the drums at church. I was waiting my turn. I'll play hand drums. I would sing back in the choir, whatever I had to do, because I was 13, 14. It wasn't my time to be the main drummer yet. But when the
man,
main drummer went on tour, that was my time. Like, okay, it's your turn, Dwann. You next up. And
holding it
so
down.
so yeah, I'm telling that story. You know, the chords and the beats and the rhythms that come out of church and go into pop music.
Man, it's a trip. Like, yeah, I even though I'm self-taught too, mostly playing bass. I play drums as well, but mostly playing bass. And I learned from a lot of the older musicians who actually came from the '70s, and my dad being one of them. '70s and '60s, they were a part of that generation of the music that we're talking about too, and so they kind of had that, that vibe as well. And so I totally know. I learned a lot from those cats, man. And but let us know about your lessons, and I know you got to roll pretty soon. Let us know about your lessons, and promote, like, like your other musical stuff, and how, like, is it still like the documentary something that you need donations for, or anything like that, or just kind of like
Yeah,
anything that we can help?
I just opened up my foundation 501(c). So if anyone wants to donate, you can get a write off. Um, I have my GoFundMe up still on my website, DewanB.com. Also, that's not part of the write off. If you want to donate, you can email me so I can hit you up with my 513C. But if you just want to put some money in, a few dollars in, that GoFundMe is up right now on my DewanB.com. My Patreon. Patreon is where a lot of my lessons are, where I'm really teaching my live interview lounging up. Those are the tiers that I'm really teaching and breaking down how black music was destroyed, the government conspiracy behind it, how they took live instrumentation, how when you see music now with no live instrumentation, auto tune, that was all planned 40 years ago, 30,
Mm,
50 years ago. And and back in 50 years ago now, because we in the 2020s now, so 50 years ago, they had to take all that high vibrational stuff out of our music, live instrumentation, live singing, because of what it was doing to lift the spirits of people and bring people together. The last thing America wants is people with lifted spirits that are coming together. Where the biggest song, one of the biggest songs of the year, is "Fight the Power" by the Isley Brothers, and stuff like that. They didn't want to keep that. So all this stuff is taken, and this plastic mumbo jumbo bullshit that we hear right now on the radio, with everybody auto tuning it up and plastic beats, that's an intentional degradation of our music. You know, and then they're awarded with Grammys and all kind of stuff when these plastic 2-bar loop beats and nonsense, and Taylor Swift, and take when you see Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, Drake, when you see these artists, this is, Bruno Mars, this all, even Usher, all of this comes at the end of an intentional lowering of our sound. There's no way an Usher can exist next to next to Bobby Brown, somebody who could really sing. No way he can. No way people like these artists like Drake can exist will sit humming that mumbo jumbo next to Gerald Levert and Joe and Teddy Pendergrass and
Mm.
Marvin Gaye and these true artists who knew how to emote and express. What we have right now, in popular music, is an intentional bastardization of our sound. And on my Patreon, I have tons and tons of hours breaking that stuff down to where I break it down in long form. How it was destroyed, who did it, why, and I give books and references and all kind of stuff like that too. I also got my 100 years of Black American music history course that's up on that Patreon. So all that stuff, and I'm always continually putting new stuff up, breaking stuff down. But if people sign up for Patreon right now, you'd easily have you got well over 80 hours of content that's telling you how and why music was destroyed. So
Wow, man, shoot, and I mean, we're looking forward to it. It's funny. Someone asked me, "Man, you should do a film." I'm not a filmmaker. Do a film about the Chitlin circuit. I'm like, and then when I saw your tree and then found out that you were doing the documentary too, I'm like, I don't know anything. I mean, I know about the Chitlin circuit, but I'm like, I'm not. I've never done any films, but I'm like, man, I wonder if Dwann B's covering anything like that, and I wouldn't doubt
I'm
it.
gonna
So
touch on
like,
the Chin Circuit on my gospel. But go on my Patreon, my interview with Mr. Bobby Rush. He was on the
oh
Chin
heck yeah,
Circuit. He talked. I have two interviews with him where I asked him a few extensive questions about the Chin Circuit. So if you want to know some more about Chin Circuit, go to my Patreon. Go look at my interview with Mr. Bobby Rush, and you can hear from a man that was on the Chin Circuit himself. He was on the Chin Circuit with Ike Turner, Muddy Waters, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Mom's Mabley, Pig Meat Markham, and he tells all those
man,
stories.
yeah, that's real cool. Yeah, I'm like, I thought you would cover
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I got some of that covered. Like whatever I don't know, I call somebody and ask.
Man, well, heck, man, I really appreciate you. One of the things I ask, and I know you have to be rolling. What advice would you give like all of us? Because I always ask like the guests, like any guest I always ask for a word of wisdom, like as far as like just to end and also to plug whatever you have, even though I know you've been doing it, but just to make sure cats know, where to get everything and whatever you plugged and whatever you didn't plug or you want to plug it again, it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The Patreon is patreon.com/DeWanB. Everywhere is DeWanB, DeWanB.com. My same at handle I have here. It's DeWanB.com. You can put at YouTube, at Twitter, at Patreon, same shit. Um, and my advice I would give is just be authentic. I think be whatever your expression is. Like me, I wasn't a filmmaker, but it happened. I came across somebody when the time happened for me to do one, came across somebody who is, and we worked together, and when it comes to, but you got to follow if it's for you, the spirit of fire, someone's gonna come in your path that's gonna help you along with that. Just have the confidence to execute. That's the biggest thing, having confidence. We be having all kind of ideas and thoughts and stuff like that, but you'll be like, "Oh, that's not for me," or "That's somebody else's," and we lack of confidence kills so many dreams. Like
mm,
so, if you have a dream, if it comes to your mind, if you conceive it, if it comes across your brain to do, then do it. Our job as humans is to bring our dreams into reality. So don't psych yourself out, don't punk out, don't go around making excuses, and don't procrastinate. Because procrastination kick your ass. Make sure you get it out and express yourself and express it with true authenticity. I'm like, people know me. I'm not a big fan of the Grammys. I call the Grammys the DEI awards. That's basically what it is. It's all these other people getting awards for a watered down, cheap, sorry ass version of our music. But every now and again they get it right. You know what I mean? And when you see Kendrick winning all these awards for "They Not Like Us," think about that. That's a song. Yes, it's a diss song, but within that diss song, he broke down the history of slavery in Atlanta.
yep,
That was a black versus that. You got to remember, "They Not Like Us" came on the heels of Drake saying you rapping like you trying to free the slaves.
Yeah, I didn't
So
dig that. And then
yeah,
wearing
so
blackface too.
yeah, so when you come on the heels of that, well, they not like us. That made no mistake about it. That was the day was all of these people who imitate black culture. You know, that's what it was about. But in true artistic Smokey Robinson level penmanship that Kendrick has, a true artist is gonna like a true painter. They're gonna put the image up there and let the listener decide what that thing is. So the day became America versus Canada for some people. It became us versus pedophiles. It became this group versus that group. So, but either way it goes, Kendrick went straight up West Coast, straight regional, straight LA.
Oh,
He stayed
oh
home. He
yeah.
stayed home. And my advice to other artists is to stay home. Man, stay with the root. Stay with your music that's in your root. Don't go chasing no goddamn crossover. Them days is done. Like, AI is gonna take over that lane pretty soon.
Yeah.
Then the only lane that exists for us true artists and originators, creators, is to originate with 100% confidence in ourselves and to be true to who you are. Be true to your sound. Be true to if you're a writer, be true to your thoughts. If you're a painter, be true to the images you see in your head. If you're a guitarist, be true to the notes that are coming through your spirit. Whatever you do, be true to that. And that's the only thing you have the answer to is yourself. And be 100,000% true to that as you express yourself.
Create, man. Thanks, Dwann.
Mm.
And hey, shouts to Layla Adu. That's another woman you got to check out, Dwann. My friend
Yeah,
Layla Adu. She
most
does. I
definitely.
interviewed her as well, but we're friends. I've even had the honor of playing music with her. She's awesome.
Oh, that's dope
But
as hell. I don't see
man,
nobody in the chat, so salute to the chat. My chat ain't working.
oh man. Well, heck, man, I really appreciate, hopefully we could do it again. Cause I mean, I have some other things that I would like to bring up and, I could do it another time, but, man, it was great having you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you for
yeah, we
like,
gotta definitely do it again.
man, what an honor,
I
man.
appreciate it, man.
You guys,
I thank you for inviting me. I
huh?
thank you for inviting me.
Oh man, man, I'm like
Mm.
elated. I'm totally excited right now.
Yes, sir.
I
All
really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Frank
right.
Young's giving you props to
Yeah.
add that, brother.
Tell
And
my tell
God
everybody say
bless
what's
you.
up. Gotta go
Man.
walk my dog. All right,
Oh
holla
man.
at y'all.
Yeah, I heard about the dog. I remember being on one of your casts. Man, this dog is bugging me.
Yeah. I gotta go walk Rocky right now. I hear him up there bugging. All right.
All right,
Y'all have
man. Black
a
history
good
of rock
one.
and roll.
God
Black
bless
history
you.
of rock and roll. Black history of rock and roll. Peace. Thank you,
Peace.
Dwann. All right, brother.